All right. Oh yeah, Mike, if you can just sit on this one, and then Jacob will join soon. But yeah, please get started.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. It's Luffy from CIAN. I'm going to start with a short intro about ourselves. So, CIAN is shipping a yield layer. We define the term of a yield layer, which is a virtual layer that empowers the sustained growth of DeFi protocols or decentralized protocols in general through consolidating yield sources across the entire crypto space and redistributing those consolidated yield sources as driving force growth momentum to different DeFi protocols. So unfortunately, a bunch of LST and LRT leaders are our co-operators. Now, I'm so honored to have Mike here. Mike is the founder of the largest ETH LRT protocol, Ether.fi. And Marin here, Marin is the head of relations within Lido, the largest, LSD DeFi protocol and the most prominent one in this area. And later on, we're going to have Jacob Phillips joining us. So starting from Mike, would you mind giving us a short intro about Ether.fi and yourself?
Sure, yeah, great to be here. I'm Mike, I'm one of the founders and CEO of Ether.fi. Ether.fi's mission ultimately is to make DeFi easy and accessible for normal people. We want to be able to create the suite of integrated apps that allow you to basically drop your traditional bank and just do everything, all your finances on chain. And so today we've got a suite of 3 products, Ether.fi Stake, Ether.fi Liquid, and Ether.fi Cash, that help you save, invest, and spend your crypto in real life. And we got started with Ether.fi Stake, which is our liquid restaking solution that now includes Ether, Bitcoin, and US dollars. And I think with all the exciting price action in the last few days, we just crossed like $7.5 billion in TVL, which is pretty wild. And we think we're just getting started.
Hey everyone, I'm Marin, Master of Protocol Relations, contributing to Lido DAO, which consists out of contributors, developers, researchers, node operators, stakers. It's an organization behind the largest liquid staking middleware, which connects 2 types of users, essentially stakers and node operators, currently having $29 billion in value staked. It's important to distinguish the two because the middleware is permissionless software on Ethereum, and anyone at any point of time can build vertical integrations, and that's one of the strongest points why ST, the digital representation of your stake, is the building block of DeFi.
Awesome. Great to have you guys here. Leader of LRT, ETH LRT, and leader of ETH LST. So let's probably start with Mike. This might not be your favorite question. So Renzo recently gave some extra traction pretty fast. So in the past couple of weeks, they received, to grow their TVL by another hundreds of millions. And a lot were contributed by us, CIAN, and through our yield layer for STETH and for SETH. For Easy ETH, and Abbey as well. With emergence of, let's say, Mallow and a Symbiotic, what do you think this competition landscape is going to lead to?
Honestly, we don't. It may sound strange to say this, we don't look at our competitors too much. We are in a very fortunate position of having something like 65 or 70% of the LRT market share. Honestly, it's almost disappointing to me that that's the way the LRT space turned out. Is that sort of like the LST space? There's one dominant player and then a lot of kind of smaller ones in the long tail. I was hoping it would be more of a balanced market, but I guess naturally, that's the way these things tend to go. So honestly, we don't pay attention too much to competitors. What we focus on is providing value to our users and trying to deliver on this vision of DeFi actually having utility in real life for people. The reality today is that it's hard to get real numbers on this, but there's maybe a few 100,000 actual DeFi users that day to day use DeFi. And out of those few 100,000, there's maybe a few thousand that have basically all of the assets. So if you sort of stack rank, individuals or entities by amount of assets in DeFi, it's probably the top 1,000 probably have 95%. So I'm not super interested in building a project, a protocol for a couple thousand super rich dudes. Our mission and what's exciting to us is to actually bring DeFi to the masses, to normal people. And staking is just one part of that. That's an essential component. It's sort of, this is in some ways a bad analogy, but it's like the treasury bill of DeFi, right? It needs to be there as a base source of yield for a suite of financial services that people can use to live their day-to-day life. So that's our focus. That's why we're so focused on cash, our credit card and wallet, on liquid, the automated DeFi strategies. That's what we care about. The data, we're at our all-time high. We're at 2.4 or 2.45 million ETH. We're still growing. Everybody's growing. I think we're fine with that.
That's fair enough. That's awesome, actually, and congrats on the achievement. So actually, we do need a lot of, new users, mass adoption is critical for DeFi. There are only, a couple of thousands active users on a daily basis, as we know, so totally with you. So, to you, probably before I pass the microphone to you, let's give a short intro of Jacob. Can you do that first?
Definitely. Hey everyone, nice to meet you. Jacob Phillips, one of the co-founders of Lombard. Sorry for showing up late. A little bit of traffic coming from the airport as rookie mistake to some degree, but excited to be here. Lombard's liquid staking protocol built on top of Babylon. We allow users to stake Bitcoin, earn a yield, and then take that liquid representation, use it within all your favorite DeFi protocols. And I guess before this I did work on a DeFi perps protocol for a little bit, and then was at Polychain before that.
No problem. Welcome. So, Marin, if we're talking about LRT's growth, we have to admit that Lido plays a huge role in the growth. So, what's your view on LRT, and how do you position Lido in this LRT wave?
So, there was a DAO vote on should Steed be an LRT, right? Through the Goose. So essentially, the result of the DAO vote was to stay conservative, not to expose stakers to new untested technologies, and not that DAO token holders consider it something bad, but it takes time to battle test. That being said, at this point, I would say LRTs and LSTs are direct competitors, actually, competing for the same portion of the market, all up until there's a slashing in restaking. At that point of time, it will become a different asset class itself. But until then, I think we will also continue to live in symbiosis because thank you, Mike, for achieving that, because he ate essentially the whole ETH supply with his collaboration with Vida, doing this cool approach where you abstract the difficulty from users. It became massively efficient and pushed everyone to innovate. So what's happening now is what you see on the market. Now there's even a Aave DAO vote to migrate Ether.fi instance to Lido instance, because Repstate is becoming actual next line of growth for LRTs. Why? ETH supply is being eaten. It's very inefficient to continue recursive staking with ETH itself. So next step is actually to do it with Repstate, which in my opinion is a much, much better thing because it drives directly to decentralization of Ethereum. If you look at Lido middleware and its diverse operator set, it scaled significantly. With the implementation of simple DVT, it gone to 270 node operators. Now with community staking module, even with early access, it added extra 150 node operators. So I think in short future, yes, competition, long term, Steed will be essentially infrastructure powering a lot of new innovations plus the restaking.
Yeah, I think maybe just a quick comment to speak to collaboration. Like I think it was natural to assume that in the early days that there would be a lot more kind of clashing and competition, but we've had a great relationship with Lido. I think Ether.fi is actually the largest single holder of STETH. Not holder, but like our contract has, I think, like 300,000 STETH or something. So EETH is to some extent backed by STETH, and we think that's valuable and good, and we see ourselves continuing to work together. So I think that's one of the nice, unique things about the crypto market.
Definitely, no doubt about that. So let's go to the other side of the restaking world, BTC. Jacob, you know, a lot of BTC and the BTC5 maxis, they believe that the BTC has unique competitive edge because restaking and staking because of the size, because of unique consensus layer. What do you think? Do you believe that? And do you think, BTC restaking could just set it apart with some other competitive edges?
Yeah, definitely. Bitcoin staking, I think, follows a lot of the same premises that were introduced by, base layer Ethereum staking and liquid staking, and then, furthered by the introduction of restaking platforms like EigenLayer. I don't think of it, I think of all of Bitcoin DeFi, Bitcoin staking, all of this is just sort of, the exact same modules that we were doing in some other ecosystem now applied to a new asset. So, in a lot of ways, it's like ETH staking and Bitcoin ETH restaking maybe and Bitcoin staking have some sort of competition between the two of them where, two different assets, both can be used to secure the same types of platforms, which kind of makes sense. And, at the end of the day, restaking is still so small right now. We're talking about people bootstrapping a few AVSs on top of EigenLayer at the moment, Symbiotic's still pretty early, and now Babylon entering the game to really blow things up. But, I think all of us, well, maybe Mike and I for sure on this stage, and I'm sure the folks from Lido as well, are kind of in the same boat that it's like, staking and restaking introduces the possibility of sort of making native token staking a thing of the past, where now all of a sudden you have these previously idle assets able to be used in productive ways to secure other chains. Classic, of course, being Cosmos chains, who used to love 20% yield for in their native token for validators. Maybe that gets shifted around. And one of the reasons that Bitcoin is such an amazing asset for this is that I don't think there's an asset with a lower cost of capital than Bitcoin. There used to be some centralized platforms you could lend on. All of those blew up. Now there's like a little bit of degenerate stuff you can do in DeFi using Bitcoin that can earn you some yield. But the idea of introducing this sort of like risk minimized staking layer in the form of Babylon, I think opens the door and has gotten a lot of people excited to re-participating with that Bitcoin on chain in ways they hadn't. And I don't know, Bitcoin holders have like almost no ways to get risk minimized yield right now. So it might only take a couple, couple percent, maybe even less than that to get Bitcoin holders excited about putting that BTC to work. But we'll certainly see. And maybe just one other thing to touch on the conversation you guys were just having. I think this is the beauty of DeFi, is that you can break these products into different asset classes with different levels of risk. Everything can be built into this like perfect primitive because of permissionless composability. And so, I think you were saying Ether.fi is the largest holder of STETH. I know Ether.fi is the largest holder of LBTC, and I'd expect to see this, a continuation of this for sure. Who knows? Maybe someday there'll be a re-restaking protocol. It's the largest holder of ETH.
Awesome. So we know that the BTC is a huge size, but if we have a look at the size of the restaking the ETH, it's already huge enough. So we have $14 billion ETH staked in across different restaking protocols. So this is a huge TVL. And Mike, do you think that a TVL is sustainable? And also, for now, I think what is critical is the adoption of the restaking service. Do you think it would literally need so much TVL to provide a reliable restaking service to users to different protocols?
No, there's way too much TVL. Yeah, there's the only source of yield or restaking rewards right now is Eigen tokens. I think ARPA started paying out some tokens, and then we'll have once slashing is enabled, we'll have a few others coming online. But yeah, there's basically an infinite supply of ETH and BTC for economic security, and there's almost nothing on the demand side. And I don't know, I think it'll probably take years for that market to rebalance itself. So yeah, I mean, as it happens in crypto, you know, the whole world kind of, or the whole crypto world went crazy and just aped in to infinity. But yeah, it's going to take a while to catch up.
So when this wave comes down, and eventually you find out there insufficient organic yield from AVS side, do you think part of those TVA will be gone?
No, because I think, at least for us with Ether.fi, I mean, we've created, we have, I don't even know the number these days, over 300 DeFi integrations. It's probably more by now. So ETH, our liquid restaking token, and EBTC, I mean, it's so wired into DeFi. Even if the only yield available is staking yield, it's still useful because now, you know, it trades on centralized exchanges. It's plugged into basically every DeFi protocol. So even just the base staking, in some ways, the fact that there is this token that's so wired into all of DeFi actually keeps the restaking TVL there, so that as the restaking services start coming online, creating utility and generating revenue, we can kind of grow into it rather than having a big TVL collapse. So I actually don't see an exodus happening. Because again, it's become this kind of universal asset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And maybe I can jump in on this as well. I mean, we get the question about Bitcoin yield all the time because the market hasn't yet developed and no one really knows what it'll look like. And the point Mike was bringing up, there's already so much ETH TVL available for people building AVSs now to flood the market with a ton of Bitcoin. I mean, why do we even need all this? And I think framing this yield as the base rate for Bitcoin or for some asset class, I think is the right way to think about it. It's like right now the sort of risk minimized base layer yield that is the treasury rate is staking. If for some reason down the road staking became less valuable and that yield wasn't there, there would probably be some other super robust risk minimized staking yield you could get. Like maybe it's deploying into maybe like Aave or Compound or something like that becomes like so robust to the point where now that becomes the base layer yield. So I think whatever that is, it's like the ST-ETH and LPTC following the footsteps of ST-ETH, I think is sort of trying to capture whatever that rate might be. Right now it's staking, could be something else down the road.
Definitely.
One thing I
go
need to
ahead.
jump in. So we say yield a lot. I think we should move away from that term because to have yield, you need to have either interest or dividends. Maybe that's one thing that separates current state, at least ETH and BTC liquid staked assets or liquid restaked assets. Why? Because on Ethereum side, you essentially get rewarded for securing the network. So you get some level of compensation, even that might be a wrong word, to providing a service. Meanwhile, with liquid stake BTC, you still have this difficulty. I've seen a speech before that Bitcoin might transition to POS, which would be awesome, right? And solve a lot of problems, yet to be seen. But here, it's a different way how the underlying asset sources the rewards. And then on the restaking side as well, again, you get rewards for providing security to the network, right? So you're not essentially consuming any type of financial products. You're not exposing your assets to any current regulations, right? And that's very important to distinguish. I try to influence a lot of young protocols on chain to stop using yield because it's drawing the wrong spotlight. Same as people were referring to liquid stake tokens as derivatives, but derivative needs to have a contract between two parties or more. There's no contract here. Essentially, you get a representation token that directly represents your stake in the middlewares that are deposited on the validators, and you get those rewards. So very major difference, and it can influence a lot of conversations, and especially when we speak on popular events like this, when regulators review the videos, we might set them on the wrong foot. So just wanted to kind of highlight that part.
Yeah, definitely. Like what you told me before, to avoid using the word yield. So, we know that, as Mike mentioned, the demand for this service, that's something that we're looking for. And I think the same might apply also to BTC staking, right? Not only to ETH. So my question here is, do you think BTC LST is chasing the same target market as ETH LRT does? Or do you think, you could potentially, address an export market?
I think it's mostly targeting the same market, except there's probably two interesting things I think the BTC staking market is going after. One is BTC native products, Lombard building a Bitcoin LST. It's obvious that you'd want that system secured by the native asset, or at least it would create really strong alignment around this kind of system. I think the same goes for Bitcoin L2s. This whole Bitcoin ecosystem that doesn't have smart contracts natively builds this sort of expressivity layer on top, necessarily secured by all these platforms. It would be great if there, the proof of stake layer used Bitcoin as the native asset. Certainly, Bitcoin. It would be cool if maybe one day Bitcoin transitions to proof of stake. I don't think anybody's holding their breath for that in the meantime. But I do think it's kind of interesting how there is this sort of this undertone about Babylon that is this like proof of stake layer on top of Bitcoin. Well, built directly into Bitcoin L1 is actually it's sort of like a method of gaining social consensus around proof of stake. So it might be that like Babylon's success is actually what drives the Bitcoin community to start considering deeper integration for proof of stake. I don't know that's going to happen anytime soon. So that's the first one, is just Bitcoin native applications should be secured by Bitcoin. And then the second is, I think most of the stuff being built in the ETH ecosystem is AVS is already built on ETH, or like, L2's kind of already in the ecosystem. But Babylon's been going after this market of existing proof of stake chains, which I think offers like a little bit of a different, existing proof of stake chains and the whole Cosmos community. So I think there'll be some interesting stuff there. Certainly, I think it's harder to, for an existing proof of stake chain to turn back and start going after, restaked capital as the core of their security. But I do think it'll be interesting, especially if we think the restaking market is going to have as much success if it will. At some point, some of the biggest chains in the space are going to decide that it's worthwhile to start exploring other capital providers. And I think Babylon and Bitcoin stakers will be right at right there to attack. And maybe the interesting thing about this for like a liquid staking token is that this then provides perhaps the least risky place to park your staked capital. A lot of AVSs are new. There's sort of technical risk you're taking on. This is sort of the easiest clients to onboard, I think, from a restaking perspective. But it's nice to have had a node that's out there running in production for a couple years before allocating the Lombard's capital to it. It's kind of a cool thing.
Thanks. It makes a lot of sense to me. Let's be less serious and talk about something delightful. Marin, Trump wins. So what does that implies to Lido, especially, how do you expect the SEC to be reacting to Lido? Are they going to be more friendly?
That's a tricky question. So there was no DAO vote to have any stance on this, so I can only tell my personal opinion on the topic, which I'm a sort of a hyper-realist person, and spoke with a couple of super high-profile lawyers around the topic. Like, I see a lot of repetition in terms of pattern when industry is in desperate need of a new narrative. Restaking comes in a bit too soon before its maturity. We push it as a 300 kilometer per hour car. Meanwhile, we didn't mount the wheels. Similar is happening now. Yes, regulations will change. I don't think anything will change for due time, and I think Lido, as a middleware, is in the same position as every other on every other blockchain. What's going to happen? We will probably have some policies that are more friendly towards us. But to have regulations change, since you mentioned the states, I guess the states are the global leader in just about anything regarding the finance, which then translates the crypto and blockchain. Incentives are misaligned. Like, to have the change, you need to have aligned incentives. When you count the states that actually benefit from crypto, it's a handful, right? Maybe one hand, maybe two. But you need majority support, and then it needs to translate to quote the lawyer, it needs to translate the benefit of the voters, new employment, more taxes for the state, right? It needs to holistically be a benefit. So that means we are still early. But that's a good thing.
Thank you, Marin, for sharing this. So let's, bring the topic back to the industry. As we said previously, Mellow and the Symbiotic, they were actually significantly reducing the barrier for entry for different LRTs, and they were also increasing the versatility for the collateral assets in restaking. So, Mike, to you, are you open to multi-asset, or you're going to stick to ETH, LRT? And what do you think, this trend, this reduce the barrier is going to bring to this LRT industry? Improved security or more fragmented liquidity?
Sorry, what is going to bring to Ethereum? Different restaking networks, or?
Different restaking assets, not only ETH, BTC, and a bunch of other altcoins are allowed to be restaked through Symbiotic right now.
Yeah, and I think Eigenlayer is also going in that direction, where they're, I think they've already announced that, or they're planning to. They are going to support arbitrary ERC20 restaking. In fact, they have, yeah, because we're restaking Athena, USD with Eigenlayer. So I do think that's going to become the standard. There's actually, I think, a lot of pretty interesting bespoke use cases for arbitrary token restaking. So we have Ether.fi, our governance token restaking right now, with the intent to use it to secure some of our own internal mechanisms. Like the plan in the near term is to roll out an AVS, so a restaking network that runs our Oracle and rebasing mechanism, which typically is, ends up being something that's more centralized and kind of bespoke. So, I'm pretty bullish on arbitrary kind of token restaking, and I think it's great. I mean, we're obviously huge supporters of Symbiotic and Karak, and Nectar, I think, is up and coming as well. So we want to create, as Ether.fi at least, a gateway to all of the different restaking networks, so that we can abstract away that complexity from the user.
Gotcha. Nice. So, Marin, to you, as Mike mentioned previously, even if the demand for restaking servers is not sufficient, it is, ETH is going to be sustainable and stay strong, because it's a pretty deeply integrated in DeFi, and it's a strong utility in the ecosystem in DeFi. So apparently, Lido is the pioneer in this, and recently we saw a lot of new development in that direction, like Lido Alliance, DeFi page of Lido, and a bunch of other actions. So do you think they're going to contribute to the utility of ETH, S2ETH/Rapid S2ETH, and to the yield sources?
So it's a big question mark. What's next? So no one has a crystal ball, but definitely this kind of all pushes towards what Vitalik spoke earlier this morning, like MVI. If something is changed in that direction, we will see much higher risk exposure to generate rewards for users, much lower security. And then a lot of DeFi protocols in general will go under, because it's mostly based on the rewards from the emissions of securing the network and the priority fees, much less on, let's say, lending and borrowing returns and, let's say, trading fees. So to answer your question, the industry itself is at the crossroads, and it's going to be decided by Ethereum Foundation, essentially, where it will go. It might go good, it might go bad, but then restaking does bring a good use case, which a lot of people have in mind as, yes, but now we have restaking, people will pay for the services. We still don't have the point where supply and demand met, so we don't know who's going to pay what. And I can tell you one thing, if I was running a network on any of the risk-taking protocols, I wouldn't want to pay them anything, right? And they would want me to pay millions. So we need to meet somewhere. And then how much actual collateral to secure the network I need, I don't know, right? No one knows. So it's a big, big question mark. And that's how it is with actual pioneering. Like we are at a frontier, we are trying to make new discoveries, and then we are making strategic bets. I do think risk-taking is here to stay, and I think in future we will actually have something on top of risk-taking, but not risk-taking of risk-taking, but a new type of innovation. But my bet is, from the liquid staking perspective, to be the backbone, as I mentioned earlier. Right? There's no need to compete with everyone in every segment. And to mention the DeFi page you said, how I see it, it's just a small step for the Lido community to have easy access as an information hub. Right? We don't have a similar stack of products like Ether.fi in collaboration with Vida, where you can just trust them, one click and it goes. But then we have a different subset of users that are usually more DeFi proficient. So they just, as an information hub, find where to hop.
Yeah, definitely. I totally echo that. And, you know, as CIAN's STETH yield layer is doing, and we're contributing to STETH and pushing the overall APY of STETH holders to, over 25%. I think hopefully we're also going to be incorporated into the DeFi page and get exposure to the users.
Can I ask you a tricky question?
Please.
Right? When ETH lands on a Lido of isolated market, will you provide a yield layer for it?
Can you say it again?
When the ETH lands on the Lido isolated market, will you provide a yield layer for it?
Well, you know, there was a chance. Ether.fi has Vida. So I think but there is still space for the cooperation for sure, because we have some differentiations in terms of decentralization and unique strategy we provide. So I think there is definitely room for that. And also for Lombard, we've been in discussion with Lombard for quite a while. So I think I'm seeing that actually happen. Thanks, man. So thank you. Now, that's probably the last question to Jacob, the new joiner in the staking and restaking world. So you see that recent controversy around WBTC, that just prompted a lot of the BTC wrappers of thinking, of launching their protocols, launching their tokens, and building aggressively around their tokens. So this, together with let's say Lombard, that's going to drive a lot of BTC into DeFi. So how do you think this is going to impact the development of BTC-Fi?
Yeah, I think this is the best thing that possibly could have happened to BTC DeFi. It's like we build all these centralized wrappers as a place to start to onboard people into the ecosystem. I feel like we've seen this time and time again, where you build something you want to build, let it get product market fit, and then let centralized institutions let us down, and then DeFi becomes popular. This was kind of framed to me by another participant in the BTC DeFi ecosystem. I like the framing of it. It was like, when there were centralized institutions who were doing things really well, DeFi isn't quite as attractive. Like, DeFi's always made a name for itself by doing something fundamentally different than TradFi, or something that you can't do in traditional finance. And Bitcoin DeFi was there for quite a while. All of the centralized, the BlockFis and friends that all collapsed back, a couple years back. That was how you earned yield on your Bitcoin. Everybody did it. Everybody worked. I was worked at a venture fund for a long time. All the guys that were investing in and preaching DeFi were also lending to BlockFi because it's the best place to get a yield. In the absence of that, that now became the catalyst for creating this whole parallel financial ecosystem on chain. And I think WBTC's woes are the latest example of this. And I think it's driven a lot of capital into the market and created some competition. Now you have Coinbase launching their own Bitcoin wrapper. I think there's a couple other players. Big institutional folks who are looking at this as an opportunity. And, I'm particularly excited because even though LBTC is sort of this, this yield-bearing Bitcoin liquid staking token, there's so much symbiosis between everything that those sort of DeFi native wrappers are going, even the centralized ones, now to work in lockstep with a liquid staking token. Kind of building out the Bitcoin ecosystem together. So I think there was a lot of chaos in the market for a little while, but I think it was the best thing that could have happened for Bitcoin DeFi. Now it's created like exactly the catalyst we need to push this forward, and everybody's eyes turned really quickly to Bitcoin DeFi and how can we get involved. Now like all the L2s I can think of are trying to figure out how to become Bitcoin L2s. There's a lot of excitement in the market, and it's a good time, good timing. I mean that plus now some of the political catalysts. I mean this is an exciting time to be building in Bitcoin.
Great comments. Okay, guys, I think we're running out of time. We're ready to wrap it up. And thank you for being with us here. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.